Most people like to tell themselves that their relationship problems are just bad luck. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong person. But here's the truth no one wants to hear. You're not meeting the wrong people. You're choosing them. Not consciously, not intentionally, but with your nervous system, your patterns, your unresolved stories from way back when you were too young to understand what any of this meant. See, everyone thinks they're looking for love. They're not. They're looking for what feels familiar. And familiar doesn't mean healthy. Familiar just means I've been here before. That's why so many people end up in the same relationship over and over, just with different faces and different names. Because on a deeper level, they're not searching for love. They're searching for the emotional climate they grew up in. If love in your childhood meant pleasing others, you'll choose people you have to please. If love meant walking on eggshells, chaos will feel like home. If love meant pain, you'll mistake anxiety for attraction. And then you'll call it chemistry. Yes, it's chemistry, just not the romantic kind. More like the kind you learn about in a lab marked toxic. The Stoics warned us, a person suffers more from their interpretations than from the events themselves. Adequatism adds another layer. You suffer because your old programming is still running, and you don't even know it's there. That's why that sudden, intense pull towards someone isn't always passion. Sometimes it's your trauma saying, "Oh, this feels familiar. Let's do this again."
Let's go even deeper. Because clarity doesn't come from comforting stories. It comes from uncomfortable truths. When you feel that irresistible attraction to someone who's emotionally unavailable, unpredictable, distant, or stormy, that isn't hate. That isn't destiny. That isn't some cosmic alignment. It's your nervous system recognizing a pattern. It's saying, we know this script. We've acted in this play before.
You're not drawn to the person. You're drawn to the feeling they recreate inside you. The same feeling you learned long ago, in a time when you had no power, no voice, and no choice. This is why people run from healthy partners. It's not lack of spark, it's lack of chaos. And for some people, chaos is the only thing that feels real.
So, let's bring in adequatism, the philosophy of clarity and conscious action. One of its core insights is brutally simple. You don't fall in love with people. You fall in love with the emotional role they allow you to play. And that role is rarely chosen by your present self. It's chosen by the version of you who learned about connection the hard way. Now, let's shift from theory to practice, because awareness without application is just decoration. There's a technique we use often in adequatism, borrowed partly from Stoicism, partly from high-level negotiation psychology. It's called separate the fact from the story. The fact is always boring, neutral, clear. A text unanswered, a promise forgotten, a tone that felt sharp. The story is everything your mind adds on top. They don't care. They're losing interest. I'm not enough. This is my fault. People rarely suffer from the facts. They suffer from the fiction they construct around the facts. Here's another technique, one used by field analysts in crisis teams. And yes, it works in relationships too. Observe the situation as if it's happening to someone else. Imagine reading your friend's text thread. Imagine watching their interactions. Imagine seeing what they put up with. You'd immediately understand what's going on. You'd see the red flags, the excuses, the emotional mismatches. You'd know exactly what advice to give. Now ask yourself, why is it obvious when it's their story and impossible when it's yours? Because your emotional history distorts the lens. Adequatism clears the lens. It forces you to look at what's real, not what you wish were real.
Another practice, spot the pattern, not the person. Your strongest attractions are rarely about the individual. They're about the pattern they activate inside you. That's why you can feel chemistry within seconds. It's not chemistry, it's recognition. Maybe you're drawn to the distant, maybe to the chaotic, maybe to the ones who make you chase, maybe to the ones you must constantly impress.
It feels intense, but intensity is not intimacy. Intensity is adrenaline, and adrenaline feels like love when you don't know what actual love feels like. And here's the twist. Healthy people don't activate your wounds. They activate your potential. And potential is terrifying.
Because potential requires you to show up as your real self, not as your wounded self. It requires honesty, consistency, growth. And many people are far more comfortable fighting for someone who doesn't want them than becoming the version of themselves who could build something real. Stoicism teaches, first, discipline your perception. Adequatism teaches, then discipline your interpretation. When clarity becomes your baseline, your taste changes, your standards shift, your attractions evolve. What once felt magnetic begins to look shallow. What once felt thrilling begins to look dangerous. And the people you once chased stop looking like destiny and start looking like history. There's a moment in every person's life when they finally see their patterns clearly, not intellectually, but viscerally, like a spotlight hitting a stage where the same play has been running for years. It's the moment you realize you haven't been choosing love, you've been choosing familiarity, patterns, echoes, repetition, wrapped in new skin. And the moment that awareness arrives, something inside you shifts. You can't go back to sleep. You can't pretend you don't know. You can't unsee what's now obvious. Adequatism calls this the breaking of the internal fog. The instant your mind stops worshiping the illusion and finally starts observing reality. Here's where things get interesting. When you begin to see clearly, you notice that the people who once pulled you in so strongly now appear like someone else's unfinished story, someone else's longing, someone else's wound, not yours, not anymore. The Stoics would call this liberation through perception. Adequatism calls it freedom from emotional autopilot. Let's go even deeper, because clarity without application is just philosophy. You need something practical, something you can actually use tomorrow morning when your emotions try to drag you into old territory again. One of the most powerful tools we use is something deceptively simple: emotional reversal. When someone triggers you, don't react. Reverse the direction of your attention. Instead of, "Why are they doing this to me?" ask, "Why is this affecting me so strongly?" The trigger is the teacher. The reaction is the map. The intensity is the clue. Every emotional spike points to an unfinished chapter inside you. Not inside them, inside you. Another adequatist technique is brutally efficient. Would I choose this person if I met them today? Not yesterday when loneliness spoke for you. Not years ago when your self-worth was fragile. Not during the moment of excitement that clouded your judgment. But today, right now, as the person you are becoming. 90% of the time, the honest answer is no. But you stay because you're attached to the story, not the relationship. Here's another practical shift, one used in psychological training for people who must stay calm under pressure. Describe reality without adjectives. No judgments, no emotional colors, no interpretations, just pure observation. He didn't text for 5 hours is not the same as he doesn't care. She canceled plans is not the same as she doesn't value me. When you remove adjectives, you remove the illusion. You remove the drama your mind is addicted to. You remove the emotional story that's been draining your life. This technique alone will save you years of pain. Because once you stop reacting to your imagination, you start responding to reality. And reality is always simpler than the stories we tell about it. Let's explore another layer, the one most people avoid. The part where you must face the truth that scares you the most. Sometimes you don't want love. You want something to fix. Fixing gives you purpose. Fixing gives you identity. Fixing gives you distraction. Fixing makes you feel needed. Fixing makes you feel important. But fixing keeps you away from real intimacy, because intimacy requires presence, not projects. Adequatism teaches that you cannot build a healthy relationship from a wounded identity. You will simply recreate the wounds on the other person, or let them recreate theirs on you.
Here's the truth. Healthy love doesn't need rescuing. Healthy love doesn't require performance. Healthy love doesn't demand self-erasure. Healthy love doesn't turn you into an emotional contortionist. Healthy love is quiet, warm, stable, clear. Sometimes so clear that you mistake it for boring, only because chaos has been your baseline for too long. This is where adequatism becomes transformative. It retrains your perception. It rewires your instinctual choices. It teaches you to feel attracted to clarity, not confusion, to stability, not volatility, to presence, not distance, to truth, not fantasy. And when that happens, everything changes. Not magically, not instantly, but undeniably. People who once felt intoxicating now feel tiring. People who once made your heart race now make your mind ache. People who once activated every nerve in your body now activate nothing at all, because you finally see them clearly, not through the lens of your longing, not through the lens of your wounds, not through the lens of your past.
Just clearly, as they are. And that clarity frees you, not from people, from illusions. Once the illusion dies, the attachment dies with it. And when the attachment dies, you regain something you didn't even know you lost. Choice.
Choice to walk away. Choice to wait for better. Choice to choose someone who chooses you. Choice to stop repeating the same emotional cycle disguised as love. This is where real relationships begin. Not when you meet the right person, but when you finally stop abandoning yourself. Adequatism puts it simply. You cannot build a healthy relationship from a blurry mind. Clarity is not coldness. Clarity is compassion. Clarity is maturity. Clarity is self-respect in its purest form. And once clarity becomes your default state, you stop chasing storms and start choosing the calm that once frightened you. Because now you understand, love isn't the fire that burns you. Love is the light that lets you see.